Well, hello, everybody. This is Insurance Gone Wild, yet another episode. We thank you all for joining us. I am your host, Dennis Settlemeyer, and my co-host is
Stephanie Lencioni.
Stephanie Lencioni.
There it is.
I've got to repeat it every time.
I've
got to do it.
We cannot continue without it.
We cannot. It's part of our shtick now. So, but today we're going to talk a little bit about health insurance.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about P&C.
Yes.
But we're going to...
The main concept is how much insurance is too much insurance.
That's right. How much is too much?
How much is too much? And we say it's never too much. No, I'm just kidding. That there is too much, right? It just... Because you don't want to become insurance poor.
Correct.
Right? Like you're spending so much money trying to have peace of mind and insure against everything that could possibly happen to you. And yet you have nothing by the end of it. And like, that's dumb.
Yeah. And it's absolutely true because insurance is a transfer of risk. That's the basic definition of it. What are you willing to risk versus what you want somebody else to pay for? And, you know, there are certainly those personalities out there. They don't want to risk anything. But is it really feasible? Well, first of all, you cannot be insured for every little thing. It's impossible to be insured for everything. But the other thing is it becomes very, very expensive. I mean, other than rates going up themselves, which is already expensive. I mean, if you tried to insure yourself against everything you possibly could, you would be insurance poor.
That's right.
So you have to factor in what is most important to you. What are the biggest risks in your life? And I had mentioned we're going to talk a little bit about health because health is a risk in people's lives. You could have somebody that is the healthiest person in the world on the outside. You don't know what's going on the inside, right? Yep. We talk about that when we talk to people about life insurance.
Yep.
They're like, why do I have to get a physical or a paramed exam? Well, they want to know what's going on the inside. Just sitting here looking at you, you look like everything's fine.
Looks good.
But that may not be true.
Right.
And, you know, there is a point to where you have too much insurance. And I had mentioned for the property and casualty portion that I do is I think you need to have enough insurance to protect your assets.
Right.
And so I've run into people who have a lot of assets and they have minimum liability limits.
Yeah, those are tough. And, you know, the conversation there is like, oh, well, I have enough money where I can protect against it. And you're like, awesome. So you want to lose all of it because something catastrophic happened?
Yeah.
So there's that balance, right? So there is definitely an underinsured. Mm-hmm. Right? Where we feel that and we're like, oh, I just really feel like you should transfer a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
And then, but we're not trying to say, hey, just in case somebody wants to come after you for 10 million and you've got $2 million worth of assets, just go ahead and insure for 10.
200,000.
Or 200,000. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. And I've met people who are millionaires that have very low auto liability limits. And I have to have a conversation and go with them. Well, you're legal, but if you hit somebody like me, or if you hit a lawyer, or if you hit a doctor, maybe you can afford it, but would you rather give up a little bit more every month now or write a big check later on?
Right.
So you got to make the decision on what you want. And usually what I get is that, all right, well, give me a quote on what you think I need.
Yeah.
And then they nitpick it. Oh my gosh, that's how. I'm like, dude, you're making X amount of dollars. I'm pretty blunt. X amount of dollars. You can't afford an extra $50 a month.
Or or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
$75 a month, whatever it is. Now, that's that kind of conversation. If I have somebody that I know that doesn't have a lot of assets, doesn't have a lot of money, okay, let's get you the highest level we can because you still have some assets. or we want to protect your future assets.
Well, and I was going to say, and that comes into play
young.
when you've got the younger people and they're like, well, I don't really have anything right now and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, if you
plan
cause
to?
an incident, and then they'll make sure that you never do, because they'll garnish your wages for the rest of your life, depending on how bad this accident was.
Yeah.
So there's just definitely the fine line when it comes to that.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think that's where you have an agent that can sit and work with you. And yeah, we may, me or the folks on my side may recommend a higher coverage. And there's just no way that the client can pay it. It's not that they don't want to. Maybe they want to, because you run into that. Man, I'd really like to have that, but I just can't afford an extra $25 a month.
Right.
Hey, I get it, because we find out enough about them. I get it. Well, let's put you at this level rather than this level.
We'll check back in. Yeah.
And we'll follow up with you as things get better. And that's sort of the key, is helping them along, because we want to help them protect their future, not only their present, but their future. And so, but you don't want to get, if you have a single person that doesn't have any assets, they probably don't need $1 million umbrella policy. Probably not $1 million umbrella policy. They might want a little bit higher auto limits, but
No, and that's where you start. Like, let's get higher auto limits, and then the insurance company is gonna. So there's always the fine line too, where they're like, you take those people who have a ton of assets, and they're like, yeah, but the insurance company, if they find out that I have these big limits, then, or the attorneys find out that I have these big limits, and they're going to come after me more.
And I'm sorry, they're going to come after you anyway.
And I'm going to say there's truth to that. I'm not in the claims world. Once that attorney figures out that you have that $10 million umbrella, guess what? They're going for $9.5 million in whatever settlement for a tiny dink of a rear end accident, but, and not necessarily like that, but they will go for a higher amount. But if you don't have anything and you have the minimum, and then they look to see that you have 25 million in assets, well, maybe now they're going for 15. Oh, and by the way, that 15 is all coming out of your pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
So at least with the insurance company, they know, well, we can get, it's an insurance policy. They're going to pay the 9.5 if we can,
or defend you and everything.
Right. And not, they won't settle for the 9.5. They'll get settled for less.
Let's say we run into something like that. We say, like, okay, well, maybe they're not going to come after you. Your $2 million because you have a $2 million umbrella. They're like, okay, we're not going to go after them for that, but maybe we'll go after them for $500,000.
I still don't want to write a $500,000 check.
Exactly. And you're going to end up paying your own lawyers, because the insurance company is going to write a check and go, we're out. You're on your own for the rest of it, right? Because they're
for the small limits, yeah.
Yeah, if you have small limits.
Well, and so
So you're writing a check that's more than $500,000. So it goes back to my point before. Would you rather write a little bit bigger check now or a really big check later?
Yeah. So what do you think a $2 million ballpark? Like, I understand it all matters. Umbrella.
Well, if it's just a home and 2 autos, probably now let's say $1,000. We might be able to get $2 million, $1,100. They've went up
For the year.
For the year.
Okay. So a $2 million umbrella paying $1,000 a year in premium will take you 2,000 years to break even.
I know. But
that's the conversation though, right? And I think that's part of that risk and reward of how much is too much, and does it make sense, and all of these things. Because is there a high likelihood of something like that happening? Quite honestly, there's a pretty decent chance if you drive
in Dallas, Fort Worth,
any major metropolitan area. I mean, there's a chance. I don't know what the percentages are, but there's a chance that you could be found liable for causing a terrible accident.
Maybe you're not even found liable, but you still have to.
You still have to defend.
You have to defend.
Yeah.
And so that's where the insurance company comes in. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked on because I could feel myself going a different direction.
Oh, sorry.
But no, it's not on you.
It's just doing the math though, of just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh gosh, well,
they think they
$1,000,
can-
and you're like, well, remember, this is $1,000 for people who have the $2 million in assets. This
Yeah.
we're not talking to the person who's just started their career living in a 1-bedroom apartment, who has a paid off car, who's making $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
We're not trying to pitch this, right? I mean, it's so we know your audience also.
You got to know your client. That's
Right.
or your prospect. That's the key.
Yeah,
And you got to help them understand themselves sometimes too. I have met people that are overinsured.
correct.
And I've asked them, why do you have this policy? Well, I got an elderly couple. They had really high auto liability limits, which I was okay with that. They had a house that's paid off, and they don't have really any other assets. And they had $1 million umbrella policy. And I'm like, why do you have that umbrella policy? It didn't cost very much. But if they wanted it, that's okay. That wasn't really the deal. But I just like, why do you have it?
Right.
And you're like, well, we were always told that if you're in an accident, if you cause an accident, you're liable, they can take your home. And we don't want them to take our home. I'm like, that's not true. They can't take your home, especially if it's homesteaded. The insurance company can't take your home. Courts can't go after your home. If it's the one. Now, if you have a second home, they can go after a second home.
Right.
If you have multiple cars, sometimes they go after multiple cars.
Right. They'll leave you with one. Yeah.
They'll leave you with one.
Yeah.
But I said, that's not, but that's what they thought.
Right.
And so in a way, they may have been overinsured. But still yet, we run into that. And sometimes it's just a misconception or a misunderstanding of how things work. On your side, the health insurance, how many different policies do you have that you can
like
offer
2,000 or 3,000. Yeah. Like there's just, there are a million different companies out there who offer their own little plans,
Yeah.
all with very different little things that they do. There was one that I used to offer all the time. And it was anyway, but yes, they're all additional on top of your major medical. And some work completely by themselves, and then some have to follow the major medical. So there are different types there. We go through going through the benefits and everything with my husband, because he's W-2 and he gets his benefits package and everything. And they hit you with, do you want hospital? Do you want accident? Do you want cancer? Do you want heart attack? Do you want this? You have to go through 15 different options. I'm like, here's the thing. And then they have one, they're like, it covers accident and hospital, but you've said yes to the hospital, yes to the accident, and then yes to the hospital and accident. And you're like, that's too much. This is too much. Now, love the variety. But when people are just going through that and they don't really know the difference and don't totally understand it, and they're like, I guess I should. Some people I think are just clicking. They're like, I guess I should. Or they're completely, they're overwhelmed. And then now they're not picking the one that actually could help them the most.
Then they throw in there, do you want Aflac or an Aflac type policy for accidents?
Yep.
Which also has other bells and whistles to it. I get it.
And not just there are other companies as well. Yeah. There's, Colonial out there for worksite.
No, I get it. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Because that's the Kleenex of. It can get overwhelming.
It can. So.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think that possibly they might do that, offer all of those things, to make sure that they offered all those things to everybody, and it's all on one piece of paper, so they can't walk up to you and go, well, we've got these products or policies you can get, and they didn't tell this. They didn't tell this. Wasn't that they weren't offering it? They didn't tell that part.
Well,
so that's when you run into my part, employee benefits liability. That's what made me think EBL.
Okay.
Not EPLI, but EBL, employment benefits liability, where you have to make sure you're offering everybody the same thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, well.
Or equally.
It
needs to be.
Yeah, so you put it on a piece of paper. And
but not everyone necessarily gets the same thing. It just has to be.
Yeah, it's
across the board.
But it's overwhelming.
And here's the thing, and that wasn't a knock to it's great that there are 15 options and they have the information and everything else. But
No, I agree. It's great.
But so when we are talking to clients, they're like, well, hey, I have this, this cancer policy that I got 20 years ago. I'm like, don't cancel it.
Yeah.
Just whatever you do, don't cancel it. I haven't even looked. Please don't cancel it. Because a lot of those, they're based on age.
Yes.
And then if you can get it through work. And so here's in a very quick snapshot nutshell, what I would tell people if they're like, hey, how much is too much? I would say, what are you most concerned with? Right? What is your biggest concern? Because that's health-wise, we may have all of the asset concerns together and but you just simply being a man are going to have potentially different concerns than I do. And then your family history is different. I have family history of a lot of cancer. I have a cancer policy. And then other people are more concerned with, well, I have a lot of people in my household, they've had a lot of mental illness as they're older, dementia, Alzheimer's, sundowners, whatever the case is. And so that speaks to them and they want to protect against that. So that's the question, right? What are you most concerned with happening? And it's twofold. Right now, like what are you most concerned with that could happen in the immediate future? And then what are you most concerned with that could happen kind of down the road? When I say that, that's like, I still play basketball because I apparently will never let that go. I am the grandma on the court and I don't mind it. I fell the other day. It doesn't matter. But the entire court was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I could not do it right now if you paid me. If you offered $1 million, I couldn't reenact. But my heel was like up to my hip, knee bent, this down, and I fell straight on my back. And I have no idea how it even happened. I was going for a rebound. I actually followed my shot the one time I ever did that. That'll teach me a lesson. But anyway, like laid out, like the ref wouldn't even give me the ball to start the next play because he was like, are you sure you can walk? What's happening? So anyway, it was kind of funny. But moving on from that, my point is accident coverage, right? Maybe a little something extra, hospital coverage or accident coverage that could maybe help with a deductible if I totally tear my ACL or do whatever because I'm still playing basketball. So it's those things. That's what I mean by like the immediate thing. Or, hey, I'm 45 and, we do have a history of early colon cancer. Okay, great. Not great, but I hear you. So let's try to get that cancer coverage. And that's an immediate thing. And then again, everything is based on age. And then with those policies, especially if you get them on an individual level, you do have to qualify. If you get it through work, typically, if it's a big enough company, it'll be a guarantee issue for a certain amount. And then if you want above and beyond, you have to go through underwriting.
You
can get additional if you qualify medically. But again, but we don't, to your point earlier, you don't have to insure against every possible thing that could happen. You can't, or you're going to be insurance poor. That doesn't make sense.
That sounds kind of weird coming from insurance agents too, right?
Yeah, well, that doesn't, yeah.
As I was saying before we started talking that we hear about all the bad things that happen. A good thing, if nothing happens, we don't hear about it. We only hear about the bad stuff. So when you're talking to us as agents, we can give you example after example after example why you need this particular policy, a particular policy.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's the individual who has to choose. Now, there are times on my side where I'm like, you have to have this because it's a liability or something like that.
Different.
Yeah, and I'm like, I won't write it without it. If you don't want it, that's fine. You can go somewhere else because this is essential.
Goodbye.
To what? Because none of this other stuff that you have matters as much as this one part.
Well, and then
so
some things are legal that you have to have.
Well, true.
And then so there's that. And if they're like, well,
true.
But yeah, so.
But for the most part, at the end of the day, it's the client's or prospect's decision on what they want.
Correct.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I think I mentioned it early on, is that, yeah, they may want it, but they just cannot afford it.
And that, okay, so what I would say to that, there are times where I have looked, and I'm sure you've done the same thing, and you're like, it doesn't make financial sense to insure against this because what the company is going to end up charging you because of where you are. So for instance, let's say a cancer policy, and these are made up rates, but if I'm trying to get a $10,000 policy, but it's going to cost me $150 a month because of my age, and maybe I smoke, or maybe I have pre-existing conditions of some kind. It's 18, what is that? 150, 1,800 a year. That's 1,800 on an annual basis. So 5, 6 years.
8 years worth of stuff.
Yeah. 5 or 6 years, I break even. So with every year that goes by, that 10,000 is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the actual benefit. That to me, I would say doesn't make sense. Again, not my decision. And if that makes sense to somebody else and they're like, well, I feel like it could happen within the next 2 years.
Okay.
Then that's fine. That's up to you.
Or
But
one of my parents was 3 years older than I am now whenever they had their incident.
Right.
I don't have any problems, but I just
want to talk, let's work out the math, and so we just talk about just what makes sense, what makes sense. And then ultimately 100% it comes down, in most of the cases, it comes down, does the client want it? Are they comfortable with it? And we go from there. I will say, I think our clients we build relationships with our clients, and they're pretty receptive to, hey, does this make sense to you? I don't know.
Let me go back.
But it's whatever
to
they're comfortable
something
with.
you mentioned just a little while ago, and I'm going to ask it as a question because I know you said it, but I'm going to ask it as a question. Have you ever had a client that wanted a particular policy or a coverage, and you looked at it and go, I'm not hearing anything that says that they need this? And how do you, and you just talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that?
Well, I think it depends on how if they're in the way that you were talking about your example with the elderly people, where you're reviewing and then you're like, so why did you get this? Or if they're coming to me and they're like, hey, I want this policy, I want a quote for this. Then it's asking the questions and not trying to get in all their business, but again, we're problem solvers. At the end of the day, we're here to solve a problem that fits what we have to offer. So, interesting. Yeah. So what are you looking to accomplish with this policy? And then that will start the conversation. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's either, that's not typically how my clients handle that, and we have a solution over here that could be a better fit. Or we have I think you could just be better off. I'm going to use dental insurance, quite honestly, as an example. It is killer.
Let me give you my opinion on it before you say anything about it. I think dental insurance, 95% of it is worthless.
Well, and I'm going to agree with you, especially because not everybody goes to their cleanings every 6 months.
Even if they did.
Well, but I'm telling you, if they at least did that, what you're doing for the most part is just payment planning your cleanings.
Exactly.
Right. So that's what's happening.
And there's so many exclusions on the other stuff that it will pay for.
Yeah, but I'm here to tell you, it
doesn't even pay that much.
Well, and that's the thing. It doesn't even matter about the exclusions, because depending on what you're trying to use it for, more than a root canal is going to knock it out, and you still have to come out of pocket.
Yeah, I just had I may have to get a root canal, but I had a crown,
yeah,
put on.
So, because they only pay a certain percentage
expensive.
up to a certain amount, and And if you're going into it from an individual standpoint, where again your company isn't contributing anything, it can range anywhere from $100 to $200 a month for a family. That's a lot of money, man, and for these people not to even go to the dentist.
You know what I did? I was at my dentist, and he had his own plan for like $100 a year. It gave me like 20 or 30% off of work. I don't remember what the percentage is. But it was like, this is better than dental insurance.
Yeah. So what I will say is that's my example where I'm like, I feel like you should that's where I'm like, and so I asked, I'm like, do you have work that needs to be done right now? And they're like, oh yeah, I need braces. I'm like, this is not the plan for you. Like, you're going to spend all this money. You're going to get a little bit of chunk. And I'm here to tell you braces are real expensive.
The net is not going to be.
It's not going to make sense.
What is it? You're not getting enough juice for the squeeze.
Yeah. And so, but then some people are like, well, I mean, just in case I've got the kids and da-da-da. And I'm like, that's great. Do you plan on taking them to the dentist? And this is not a judgy parent asking. Like, I just took my kids to the dentist for the first time for a long, ever. Thing one has gone before and he did not like it.
Well, thing one has reasons why not to trust doctors.
So. True. Fair. But, but we still had family coverage for the last 8 years. We've been paying family coverage. So we've been
your ROI is so far in the negative.
I know. I need cavities, damn it. Like, I'm praying for cavities.
Can I get on your plan in case I need a root canal?
Right. Does that roll over? Can we just bank this?
Oh yeah.
But that is one where I'm like, I just feel like maybe if you've got a preferred dentist already, talk to them and see if they've got a plan and go in-house. And usually it could be a lot better. But anyway, we spent a lot of time on the dental thing, but so does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that's
what are you looking to accomplish with this?
What do you need to?
And that's the whole question. And it's like, oh, okay, well, do you just want peace of mind because you heard about something and you just can't sleep at night?
Well, I run into that on my side there, especially on the commercial. Well, I need this kind of coverage. Well, I want this coverage. Well, tell me a little bit about it.
Say more.
Yeah, and then you listen to them. You're like, that's not really what that coverage does. You need this coverage.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, you need this coverage.
If you're looking to solve this gap,
yes,
then this is the solution.
Yeah,
that is better than this.
What you need.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes they'll say stuff like, "Well, I've got 2 pieces of property. I need an umbrella policy." I'm like, why do you need to tell me why you think you need an umbrella policy? Well, I need to make sure that other properties cover for liability. I'm like, that's not what an umbrella policy does. But they didn't know.
Right.
And you can't really fault them for it. You just have to take the time to explain it as to what it is.
I think it's so nice because all industries, all lines of insurance have just made insurance pretty simple to understand.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
I appreciate the job security. Now let's talk about Medicare.
Yeah,
no, just kidding.
Let's not, because that really gets my veins popping up.
I know, it's so bad. But it is, and that's and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And insurance, again, my little joke, but it's not easy. And then people hear something and they hear something bad happening because you are more likely to hear about the bad stuff that has happened and how Joe down the street lost his house because of whatever. Well, there's more to it than Joe just caused an accident for how Joe lost his house.
Yeah. If it's a reputable company that Joe was with, even the ones that are big that we may not particularly care for, there's still a reason.
Well,
there.
And did Joe lose his house because he lost his job because it was a DUI?
Yeah.
And that I'm just saying.
We
don't know. And there's more to it typically than the surface, the headliners that they come to the table with and they're like, well, because of this, I heard about this and that's why I need this solution. And you're like,
yeah.
And that's, again, it kind of goes back. If your agent isn't asking questions, find a new agent. Because if you're just coming and they're like, oh, cool, I'll take your money. Are they helping you? Maybe. I mean, they're doing what you're asking, but at that point they're an order taker and they're not an actual advisor and consultant and helper. Like they're not assisting you in what they should be doing.
I'll actually say this because it kind of goes along with what we've been talking about, how we help people is, I was meeting with a business person the other day, and not as a prospect, just as more
just
of a
in general.
networking type deal. And I said, my goal as an agent is a little different than not all the agents, because we're not necessarily unique.
Oh, I think we're unique, but not in what we do.
Yes, we're unique.
I think
but there are
there are
good agents out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are a lot of agents that are questionable. But anyway, having said that, I move on. I said my goal is to be that advisor, in that I want to be at the same table with you as the financial advisor, their lawyer, their CPA, as their insurance person, because out of all of you else, I'm the only one that can give them their money back. I'm the only one that can make them whole. They want me at the table.
Right.
They want me at the table. The lawyer's going to help you figure out how to protect it. But if you don't protect it, there's the insurance. Financial advisor can only do so much.
Right.
The CPA can help you count it.
Yeah.
Financial advisor help you grow it. The CPA can help you count it. But I'm the only one that can replace it.
Right.
So you want me at that table.
Well, we want everyone at the table,
Yeah.
right? And then it's how can everyone work together, and how, again, transfer the risk so that how it just works. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole, I hate to say consultative, because I feel like we got slammed with consultative approach.
No, but it was.
But
we
it
did
is.
learn a lot.
That is what you're looking.
That was not a problem with Company X. Was their training was tremendous.
No.
It was Company X that was the
well,
problem.
but just in sales, right? Fair. They treated the clients fantastically. It was just the
awesome.
agents that were tough. But and just in sales in general, it's like the new buzzword, right?
There's always a new
You're a
buzzword.
consultant. You're an advisor.
Yeah.
You're a friend. Whatever the new buzzword is, but it is.
Just call me whatever you want to call me.
Yeah. Just
I've been called a lot of things, folks. So
fair.
that's just from my family.
Fair. Yeah. Fair. But anyway,
right.
we'll
Well,
wrap it up. But yeah,
yeah,
so
we're
how
about
much
out
is
of
too
time.
much? Have the conversation with your agents, both on the
Absolutely.
P&C, home and auto, commercial stuff. And then same thing with health. Just you don't go insurance poor, but do protect. Protection. It's important to have the protection
what's
there.
the most important to you? And then if your agent is asking good questions, listen to what they believe is most important to you. And if they are giving you a laundry list of stuff, then nothing is most important.
Then you can call 817-753-0093.
Yeah, what she said.
Yeah.
What she said.
I actually
All
got it
right.
right that time.
Or you can email us at contact@igwpodcast.com. igwpodcast.com. We'd love to talk with you, ask us questions, subject matters that you might want to cover. All right. Thank you all so much. Join us again.